he didn't really like the fact that I was going to do it because he was worried about my safety, right?
Yeah.
And I said, man, I'm among my people, man. I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
This is my element. I'm here every day. Like I said, if they want to give me, they can give me today, tomorrow, the next day.
Yeah. Well, welcome back, man. Glad to have you back. I guess if people hadn't seen the first one by now, you can introduce yourself again and we'll get started.
Gotcha. I'm Tim Henderson. On the streets, they gave me the nickname Big Head. I was a cop for 32 years. I started out at East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff Department, went to Elshire Police for 5.5 years, and I spent the last 24.5 years with the Baton Rouge City Police Department, where I retired as a lieutenant. In 2021, I became chief of police in Killian, Louisiana for about a year, and now I'm back in retirement.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if my brother told you, but World Star Hip Hop picked up the clip and posted it last night. Did you find out about that?
I found out about it this morning, man. I found it kind of comical because, first of all, I didn't know what that was. And then I started doing a little research on it, and I saw how they presented it about me admitting that I flashed the force so I didn't get smoked on Chippewa. And I thought it was humorous because, first of all, if you watch the content from your original, it clearly says that the bodyguard came and asked me who I was repping, and I did the four, and the explanation is on the previous thing, just because I was repping the South. But the way they portrayed it is I did it. First of all, I'm never scared of getting smoked. Mm-hmm. That don't cross my mind. I was there by myself among these 100 people walking freely, but why would I flash a gang sign or a sign from another area of town to not get smoked?
Yeah,
in North Baton Rouge?
That doesn't make no sense.
Whoever picked it up, you need to do your research better because it makes no sense at all.
Well, and I think a lot of that is just a title for people, get people's attention.
Yeah, it was a good title because it got my attention. I'm like, dang, bro, I didn't know that I was worried about getting smoked.
I know.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, a couple of people texted me. Your brother did text me, but several other people did also. So I didn't know what this website was, and some of the people that texted me, I wouldn't expect them to be linked up to this website. So it was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch the comment section too, because there'll be people like, oh, he's lying, or what, and then like multiple people from Baton Rouge, from the South, have like commented and like, no, all this is real.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I tell people this: if you got stories and you are who you are, that the stories. You don't have to make up stories. Some people do make up stories, and I don't understand why, because either you did it or you didn't. Either that's how you were or you weren't. Mm-hmm. I read some of the comments. Initially, I wasn't reading any of them, but I read some of them. And shout out to all the OGs in the hood that gave me respect, because I still respect y'all. And some of the people that made disparaging comments, either they were wrong or that's just their mindset. Yeah. And that's their opinion, man. But I do want to say this. First of all, I never worked narcotics. There was a couple of posts on there, and people got confused. I never worked for narcotics, and one person said I was the leader of the Brave team. Right. Never affiliated with the Brave team, even when they were street crimes unit. Yeah. So, for those people out there that think that, understand this, I never was in narcotics. Y'all got a different guy, similar nickname, but different guy, and never was affiliated with the Brave team. I worked alongside of them, but obviously I wasn't the leader. Right. And another one was kind of funny. They said they called him Big Head in the South. Well, they call me Big Head. That's where their name originated from. But they call me Big Head pretty much everywhere because, I kind of got known. Yeah. But this particular guy said in our area we called him Bald Head. First of all, I didn't have a bald head. Right. Second of all, the guy that they called Bald Head was a whole lot shorter than me. Mm-hmm. Didn't look anything like me, but they did call him Bald Head. So I got a different guy also in that capacity. So I never was Bald Head. That's another guy. He's I know all the pictures I saw you had hair. Yeah, I always had hair. Yeah. I didn't shave my head till it started like if I let it grow now, it'll grow on the top, but it'll have a bald spot on the back. So
yeah, I'm starting to get that.
I just try to keep it shaved now because it's a little bit neater. But no, I used to wear a flat top when I had hair. That's predominantly what I wore, a flat top or just kind of like a GI cut, just shaved on the side and low on the top.
Yeah, and a lot of the people were asking about Bruh Stupid and if we could get him on. And it's funny because even Jordan reached out to me and he's like, hey, have you tried? And I was like, I tried. I was like, I don't think he wants to come on. But he was telling me, he said there was a lot of cops in Baton Rouge that kind of have been given that nickname, like a lot of different cops.
So the nickname Bruh Stupid was one cop. The problem with nicknames is this, and I'm going to give you a clear example. Back in 96 or 97, we had a guy, his name was Marlon Harris. They called him Shorty Red. Yeah. He was known in Scotlandville. He didn't really get a city reputation because he worked in Scotlandville. Shorty Red, shout out to you, man. He was a good cop. Shorty Red handled his business. But one day, this is when I realized how confused the world can get over nicknames. One day, the guy that I have at the front of my car, I'm talking to him for whatever reason. He keeps kind of talking under his breath. He said, Shorty Red, let me holler at you. Right? And when he's saying that, I know he wants to talk. Maybe I'll put him in the backseat of my car or whatever. Yeah. But before we got to that point, I wanted to let him know. After he said it the second time, I was like, bro, I'm not Shorty Red. First of all, Shorty Red is like 5'8". Yeah. A short, red-complected black dude, right? Right. And I look nothing like that. I'm a white dude that's 6'3". And so that's when I first figured out that sometimes names travel without faces and reputations travel. So, you know, the thing with Bruh Stupid is this. I never heard anybody else call Bruh Stupid except him. So you asked about him coming on here. The last I heard, and this is for all the people in the hood, the last I heard, he was on his yacht in the Caribbean. They said that he had so many gold chains on him that he fell out the boat. They said the Coast Guard came to save him. I never got confirmation that they saved him or not. Yeah. But they did save all the gold chains, and they said they had a bunch of evidence bags floating around. I don't know what that means. So the likelihood of you getting Bruh Stupid on here, you have to check with the Coast Guard to see if he's still around. Right. And a couple of your comments, they talked about Bruh Stupid and they talked about Wolf. When I was a young cop at the prison, I used to hear these wolf stories, man. And I was like, man, this dude must be an animal. And, you know, sometimes the inmates embellish some of the stories, but I heard stories about Wolf kicking people out the second floor window and all kind of stuff. And I was like, man, I got to meet this guy. I didn't meet him for years. I never met him till he was older. I think he might have worked with the sheriff's department when I finally met him. But he, you know, physically, stature, I was thinking, you know, a John Wayne type figure, but he was not like that. I don't remember exactly his height and weight, but he, you know, from the stories, I'm thinking this dude's a monster. You know, but it's just funny, man, how these nicknames go around. But those were the ones that were more predominant.
And he works at the jail.
Who's that?
Wolf.
Oh, I don't know.
No, that's I was trying to think, and I don't know if it's the same guy because I did like 6 months in East Baton Rouge once, and there was a guy in there. I don't know if his nickname was Wolf or not, but he was.
I think his name was Denicola, and that was his last name. He was a city cop. I think he retired from the city, and then I think he went to the sheriff maybe to help out, you know, as an extra job when he got older. But I can't confirm any of that. I just can confirm the stories that I heard about Wolf, man. They said he was a beast on the street. When I say monster, it brings up another guy. I don't want to mention his name because he's still working. A friend of mine from EBR, he got that nickname Monster. So Monster, I would shout out your name, but you're still working.
So what? And I know some of the stuff we were talking about before you came on this time is the stuff with Boosie and because that was another thing a lot of people didn't believe that you know what I mean. And so what was your interaction with him?
So I knew Boosie coming up, right? So what people don't understand, when you're a cop, you see people, because I was a cop and I worked predominantly in the South, probably 15 out of my 20, almost 25 years were in the South on patrol. So just imagine this. If I started in 96, Boosie would have probably been 14, 15, 16. I'm just guessing at his age. Yeah. I knew him when he was driving. So I seen the evolution of him. I seen him come up as a youngster and then move forward. We had a casual, street relationship. We didn't, it wasn't like we was hanging out partying or nothing like that. He respected me. I respected him. He put me in a couple of his songs, and he never said anything bad about me. And so it's hard to define because people have been critical of me. Cops have been critical of me because, I even made a joke whenever they put Boosie in jail. They had a free Boosie T-shirt, and I told them I was going to get a free Boosie T-shirt because, first of all, he never got convicted of anything they tried him for, to my knowledge. I mean, maybe he got some drug charges or something earlier, but I didn't really follow the case. But in my world, it's like this. I see the same people over and over and over. I see them go from 15 to 20 to 25, and some of them I seen 5, 6 years old, and now they're just reaching 20, 25, right? So you develop a rapport with people, and we was always cool with each other, but it wasn't like I didn't take enforcement action, You can ask him. I searched his car many times. People think just because they see a positive interaction that just some kind of friendship or some kind of agreement. That's not the case. You can get Boosie on your podcast and ask him. I did search his car many times. In one of his songs, he said, I think the lyrics are 5 on my trail every day. They give me hell, but big head don't take me to jail, right? Yeah. And so I'm like, well, that's okay. He said, I don't take him to jail because I never did take him to jail because I didn't never have nothing to take him to jail for. But, people like, oh, man, he said you never take him to jail. I didn't have nothing to take him to jail for. Yeah. So how am I going to take him to jail? And if people, some of the stuff he got investigated for wasn't in anything that I was involved in anyway. Yeah. The situation with me and him, we had a street coolness, That's it. And even I developed the same kind of rapport with YB or Young Boy, just from that level where we could have conversation. I could have a conversation with them just like I'm having a conversation with you. But that wasn't exclusive to them. That was everybody. Right. I talked to everybody. So, people get wrapped up in dumb stuff. And I tell these cops sometimes, and this will kind of give you an idea. I had a Harley. I was going to the LSU game. I had a Harley. I got off. I always get off on Louise Street, exit to go to the LSU basketball game. Well, one of the attorneys I was getting some tickets from, Jamie Rothkamp, he's an attorney, defense attorney in the area. So when I came off Louise Street, I went up Thomas Delpit, which is, they call it the Boulevard. That's where the boys from UPT used to hang out. And eventually they transitioned to Top Boy Gorillas. But back then they called themselves UPT. They were from the top, which is 4 up instead of 4 down. Yeah. So when I came back through, I got my kid on the back. And I stopped at the red light. Well, the local talent came out and they're like, big head, bro, you got your Harley, right? It's about 10 or 15 of them, just the same dudes I see every day. So when the word got around that I had stopped and was talking to him, the cops were like, what you doing, man? Why you put your kid in jeopardy? I said, first of all, I see these dudes every day. If they want to do me something, they can do me something, right? But I don't fear them. They respect me. I respect them. If they want to get me, they can try to get me. Now, do you think that they stupid enough, even if they didn't like me and wanted to get me, that they would be stupid enough to do something with my kid on the back? Right. Because I promise you would have been a lot of dead people that day if they would have done something. But I didn't fear that. But these cops don't understand that because they don't have that kind of mindset, that kind of personality, and that kind of rapport with people. And that happened more than once because I had a OJ Bronco, a 96 Bronco, white, jacked up, and I had a little dude that I was kind of mentoring a little bit, and at this point in time, he's probably 14 or 15, I don't remember, and me and his mom were friends, so I was heading to another basketball game years later, driving in the Bronco, and I said, let me just stop because I got a little time before the game, and another cop saw me stopped, and they like, why you driving over here on your days off? And I said, why you worry about what I'm doing on my days off? It's my truck, my car, and I'm my own individual. Right. And I said, if you really need to know, I went and stopped by and checked on him because he was having some difficulties and his mama needed some help because she was a single mom, right? Yeah. And he needed some guidance in his life because he wasn't doing good. And I just popped in for no reason, just to see because I had a little extra time. But a lot of cops, they misinterpret that. Or they don't understand it, but I really don't care, man.
Right.
I'm gonna be big head, but that's why I tell them, you don't have to be me. I'm gonna be me, and that's me. Me stopped.
Yeah.
You know? And that's the kind of cop I am. So that's why I did well as a white cop. When you in that environment and you can be successful, then you know you're doing something right. Because white cops ain't generally accepted in these particular areas, especially these high crime areas.
Yeah, and I think that's what I got out of the first interview too, was because it is like when there's a certain respect between the cops and at least it used to be like that. I don't know about now, but if they know you're not going to do them dirty,
right?
You know what I mean? Then it's a level of respect.
And it's funny you say that, because back when the projects used to be on Oklahoma Street, they had 220 Oklahoma, I believe. They called them the Blue and Whites. We got into a big encounter. I had 5 or 6 cops with me, and they had 3 stories, right? So we're at the bottom floor. We had a guy that took off running. He had a gun. We had him cornered because it was 3 ways in and 3 ways out. We had him pinned in. So he took off running. One of our cops, Brandon Browning, was toward the exit where he was running, and I was running through the center. He wound up tossing the gun. We wound up catching him, but it was one of those situations where he was very combative. But I could hear from the 3rd floor. They knew I was there, and they said, "Big head, make sure they do it right." So that's what they felt when I was there, that I wasn't going to F them over, that I was going to do it as right as I could. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're going to fight, we're going to fight. Like I told you before, we're going to fight. We're going to fight harder. If we need to, whatever we need to do, we're going to get the upper hand. We could have probably shot this guy if he would have, because he was running with the gun in his hand. So it was one of them situations where he was lucky to come out alive. Yeah. He did go to jail. And I don't remember what we arrested him for, but that is what he said, and it had 30 or 40 people out there just on the balconies and stuff. But, he said that, and that's what they expected from me. Big head, make sure they do it right, and I'm part of it too. Which, while I'm on the Blue and Whites, this is a funny one. Some guy, we across the street, we had a similar crew with me running, catch a guy, and he actually took a jab at me, and we wound up getting into a fight. And one of the guys, this guy's silly, man. He cracked me up. He said, so we arrested this guy after a long foot chase, a fight and everything. And I could hear across the street some guy from the 3rd floor. They must have just, I think it was from the 3rd floor, but he hollered, "Big head, you wear Fred Flintstone drawers." and I'm kind of quick with it. I said, "You ought to know your mama bought them for me," right? So I fired back at him. I'm like, "Where would you come up with something stupid like that from?" But it was just one of them things where it just all in funny games, man. You can't take this world too serious, man, because if you do, it's going to consume you, man. You got to have fun when you can. You got to interact with the public. You got to, and one thing I'll tell you is this: I never had problems on the streets. I always say bad guys are bullets. That's the easy thing. Sometimes when you're dealing with the administration, they will wear you out. You worked in a prison environment, so you understand. They can annoy the hell out of you coming to work. I felt comfortable on the streets. If I seen these people on the street, that brought me joy more than being around administrators, because a lot of times they make it hard on you to come to work. And like me, I'm a little bit different cop, right? I'm a crime fighter. I'm a difference maker. I'm somebody that can influence crime. Some people tried to rein me in. Some people tried to distract me from what I was doing. They would harp on me. They would follow me around. I never got in trouble. 32 years, I never got one ounce of discipline on me. But I had several supervisors that did all they could to make me not want to come to work. I would go to roll call, spend 15 minutes with them, hate every minute of it, and I'd get out on the street. That was my comfort zone. My comfort zone was away from them, and I could battle everything they were doing just by staying away from them. So to those administrators out there, to the lieutenants, the sergeants, and everybody, if y'all out here hounding your people and out here working, but you don't understand what they're doing, maybe talk to them and say, "Hey, You know, this is a situation where let's come to some common ground because you got a racehorse that's a stallion, right?
Yeah.
You don't lock him up in a field, bro. You let him run.
Yeah.
And when you got people that want to run and that can run and that are good at it, why not let them do it instead of trying to curtail everything that they're doing and trying to keep your foot on their neck? You know that saying, keep your foot on your neck, because a lot of these administrators do that, and that's what makes a negative environment.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think their motive was behind that?
I think some of the motive, honestly, I can't say nothing else other than jealousy, man.
Yeah.
Jealousy or just a level of control. You know, I wasn't somebody that you never had to tell me to work.
Right.
If you needed something done, you just tell me what needed to be done and I would do it. But I also was proactive and I did my own work. I didn't need supervision, right? They told me what to do, where to go, and where to work. Mm-hmm. That's just common. Work this zone or whatever. But a lot of times their personality ain't strong enough to deal with my personality.
Yeah.
And maybe they trying to rein me in and show a level of control. But I'm not going to be controlled. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the chief of police. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be a man, and whether you're a man or woman supervisor, I'm going to treat you accordingly. So if you hound me, I'm going to hound you back. Now, I don't like to curse, but I came up with this saying years ago for supervisors like that, and I was going to make a T-shirt on it, and it said, fucking with me ain't stress-free. And I say that, and people are going to be like, well, that's not a good saying. No, it really is, because I'm not going to allow you to come at me wrong and not fight back. That's who I am, and that's who I'm always going to be. Mm-hmm. So effing with me ain't stress-free. That's my motto, just like I told you the other one last time I was here. Nonviolent by nature, but easily provoked. Mm-hmm. I come up with these sayings, man, but they, I'm a lion, man. I'm the kind of guy that's going to be out there doing the work, but I'm not going to let you torment me.
Right.
But some of them tried. I mean, look, I worked for a guy for a year and a half. Every day I went to work, man, I was like, man, I can't deal with this guy. I just wanted to break him in half, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, seriously, I just wanted to put the 1-2 on him, man. And I could have hurt him. I could have hurt him quick and bad, but it's not something the cop needs to do because you're going to get in trouble. So obviously I never did it, but I really wanted to. But I used to tell the young cops, all you got to do is just wait and you can outlast them, because this guy wound up, I think they let him retire. And I laughed when it happened. Mm-hmm. I don't hold grudges against these people, because all they did was make me stronger. Every day that you made me come to work and I didn't want to come to work, you made me stronger. Yeah. So I don't hold grudges against them. There's a couple of them that did me wrong, but it's all in the game, man. You're not going to spend 32 years anywhere and have a good work environment. You're going to work for some people that either they not cops or they just got personality conflicts with you. Simple as that.
Well, that's probably what made you a good cop in the streets too, is because of that ability to not. Because you didn't put up with the bullshit anywhere, but you were fair. And that's what is most respected, I think, especially in those neighborhoods and in that environment, is a dude that's not going to be messed with, that's going to stand on his own feet,
Yeah, you stand on your own. And that's why I got along good, because fair but firm is how I treated people. If you were a known shooter and you were violent, you killed somebody, then all bets are off. This is kind of a funny story, but back in the day, some of the OGs, if you will, and I still respect them. At one point in time, the OGs became, they weren't the norm anymore, because these young dudes started coming out and they wasn't paying attention to the rules of the street. They shooting, they watching social media, they doing all kind of stuff that normally wouldn't happen. You never had the OGs out here shooting people over social media posts.
Right.
But it became where it became more acceptable. But whenever you're dealing with older people and you ask them to kind of help intervene with the young people and they say they can't do nothing with them, that's when you got trouble on the streets, man. Mm-hmm. So it's a situation where you have to kind of pivot as an officer and realize who you're dealing with. And just to show you how this is an example of how you treat somebody young because they don't understand respect. I think this guy, I seen one of your posts, and he said he outran me on Tennessee Street by East Polk.
Yeah.
So it's got to be the guy I'm thinking about, because this didn't happen often. They had a guy, he was like 19. I didn't know the guy. He was just young in the area. I think he was 19, maybe 18. I stopped him for some reason. He was walking, I believe, and he took off running off of Polk Street down Tennessee. Then I knew I was in the area where I could get help.
Yeah.
Because we were close to our precinct, and I put this description out, and I figured there were cars that were either coming in or just riding around. I wasn't going to try to catch him because there's no way. I'm built for power, not speed, right? And this is a little young dude.
Yeah.
So he's running. He gets a long way in front of me, but I'm literally just kind of trotting.
Mm-hmm.
If I can keep him in sight,
at least know where he's at. Yeah.
There's only 2 streets he can go on from where I'm at, right? And so I got him contained, but they didn't have anybody that was there to help quick enough. I remembered what it looked like, but halfway down the street, he dropped his cell phone, and he had, back then, they had like the wire with the earpieces. He dropped it, and he turned around and looked at me and saw that I was so far back that he went on ahead and picked it up. Now, if I was on him, he wouldn't have stopped to pick it up. So he runs, he gets away, and I don't think nothing about it, but I got good facial recognition. I'm never going to forget your face.
Mm-hmm.
So about 3 days later, I'm driving down Tennessee Street, made the block. I'm on Thomas Delpit, and I see, I might have been on Tennessee Street and not Thomas Delpit, but as I'm approaching, there's 2 black males, and I seen one kind of fade a little bit. He didn't move fast, but he moved a little bit. And so I eased up the street, and I was like, man, he was a good little ways in front of me. And I said, it looks like that same little dude.
Yeah.
So I pull up, and his friend's still at the street, and I say, hey, man, what's up? Well, this other knucklehead, there's a wooden fence, and the wooden fence had 4x4s that keep the structure. He was standing there, leaned back like this on the wood fence behind the 4x4 thing, and I couldn't see him. And I was like, okay. But what he did, he took his blunt and he set it on top of the fence because I guess he didn't want to lose his blunt.
Mm-hmm.
So he left it smoking, and he left it lit and everything. So he's leaning back, and eventually I said, tell you, boy, I could see him. He can't hide behind a pole. And so I pulled up a little bit, and I said, hey, come here, bro. And I said, don't run like you did the other day. So I get him. And normally I wouldn't even care about that blunt. But I got to teach him a lesson, right? I got to teach him that you don't run from me, and that you stay in there and act like an adult, right?
Right.
Because he's young, and he obviously hasn't had interaction with the police. I get him. I give him to another cop. They put him in the car. I go get the weed, put it out, put it in my car. He says to the cop that Big Head just mad because I outran him. So the cop told me that. He said, hey, man, Big Head said Big Head's mad. He said, you're mad because he outran you. Yeah. So when I went back to the car, I said, you had the right to remain silent and things said can will be used against your court of law. I read him his rights, the whole 9 yards. I ain't going to go through all of it.
Yeah.
But I said, I'm arresting you for possession of marijuana. And you think that I'm mad because you outran me? You 19. You young. You supposed to outrun me, man. I wasn't trying to catch you anyway. I was just trying to keep you in sight. I said, but the lesson you're going to learn today is this. If you want to be treated with respect, you're going to respect me. Don't you ever run from me again. I'm going to put this charge on you to show you that what you did was wrong. Because if I just tell you, it ain't going to help. So now you're going to have to go through the court proceedings. And next time you could have stopped, and I probably would have told you to throw the blunt away.
Yeah.
And whatever he had on that day couldn't have been much. He was just a little. He wasn't a known entity in the neighborhood. Probably just somebody who thought it was cool to run from the cops. But that ain't cool. Not to me. You run from another cop, but you ain't running from me. And that's just the way I handle business, man. But 100% of the time, beyond that, I would have let him go with that. I'm not going to arrest nobody for that. But he had to be given the rules of the road. You on the street. This is what my expectation is of you.
Yeah.
So, community policing is something where every cop defines things and how they want to maneuver through the areas that they patrol, right? I always say I don't like the word community policing because it's an agenda attached to it, right? Mm-hmm. When they came up with that, they had funding, they had all kind of stuff. They made it a social program and they put it out there, but they don't really focus on what needs to be focused on. I changed the verbiage to policing your communities, right? Because as you know, every community has different advantages, disadvantages, different needs. different socioeconomic issues, right?
Right.
So whenever you dealing with people in a certain area, you have to be a little more tolerant. And some of these cops don't understand because, for instance, if I'm in an area that's high crime, known drug, and there's not a lot of revenue in the area, people are poorer, then you have to realize sometimes they got an option to pay rent or to buy their kid a car seat, right?
Yeah.
Or to get insurance, right?
Yeah.
So if I stop a lady and she has a kid in the car seat but she don't have valid insurance, most cops say tow the car. And I say every case is individual. Figure out what her circumstances are, why she don't have insurance. Big head, my insurance was due last week. I'm going to get it next week. I can't afford it because I just had to pay my light bill.
Yeah.
So what would you do? You turn your light, you keep your lights on for your kids, right?
Yeah.
So people that tow cars all the time for no insurance, they get mad at me when I tell them, maybe you should give them a break, because now you making a little issue that they have into a big issue, because now you got a towed car that's, if they can get it out right away, you're talking about a couple $100.
Yeah.
Then you got a ticket, but just say they leave it, they can't get the car for another week because they already don't have any money because they used it to pay the light bill, right? So how did you positively impact society by doing all that? And their argument to me was, if I have to have insurance, then they have to have it. And I'm, okay, that's a good argument. I get it. And it's the law. It's the law. But if you don't understand human compassion, then you're not going to make a good street cop. You have to understand that you have the ability to pay insurance, and that's what I tell them. You have insurance, you have uninsured motorists. If she hits you, your insurance is going to cover it. Yeah,
right.
It may cost you in the end, it may cost your deductible to go up, or not your deductible, but your premium to go up. But what's the likelihood this person's going to hit you? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But I'm not saying to do that in all instances. I'm saying you have to, if I got a knucklehead out here,
talk to him,
and he don't have insurance, and he's old enough to work, and he ain't really got no reason. Yeah, I'm going to tow your car. You should have insurance.
Right.
You capable, But everything's individual. So I never dealt with a blanket. I never did anything in a blanket situation. I always looked at the individual at the moment that I stopped them. I did what was best at the time. Right?
Yeah.
It wasn't always right or wrong. It's just what was best at the time. So if I let the lady drive away and I said, you need to really get some insurance, right? Then I stopped her from hundreds of dollars of extra money that she already didn't have.
Right.
So when you're policing these communities, man, you got to understand it. You've seen a video of me back in Mall City when I was working extra duty over there. They had a lot of problems in Mall City. Maybe around 2017, 2018, somewhere in that area. They had a bunch of gang activity, and it was really violent. So an outside source brought me in to run the extra duty back there to get a grip on the killings.
Yeah.
And what was really funny is the first day we started, I hadn't even been out there, but the first day that they started paying me, they had a murder that morning. I eventually solved it, and I eventually made the arrest.
Yeah.
Well, the detectives helped me, but we tracked him. I gave him all the evidence because we had some video evidence of him in the area. But I was like, man, that's a good way to start. The very first day they paying me, we have a murder. It was early in the morning.
Yeah.
Well, late at night, early in the morning, But, we kind of got a grip on it. But I used to, in one of the little complexes, they always had these kids shooting basketball in a shopping cart. And it bothered me. So after a while, I put on my Facebook, I said, does anybody have an old basketball goal they're not using? And I got a lot of responses, but then Karen Chala from Unfiltered with Karen called, and she said, hey, I have somebody that's willing to donate a new goal. And I said, well, they got a lot of people that said they have these old goals that are already put together and everything. And she said, well, what you want to do? And I said, it doesn't matter. So the guy actually wanted to buy new gold. So we met at Academy Sports, and there's a little video of it. I didn't want to be interviewed, and neither did he. So she did her little piece, and we got them a basketball goal. At the end, she turned her camera to me and asked me something, and I don't remember what I said. It was something like, we're just trying to do whatever we can to help these kids out.
Yeah.
She interviewed a couple of people that were there. And they said Big Head said they were gonna get him a goal, and he did. But it was important to me as a human being, man, because I got 3 kids of my own. if my kids were shooting and you was a cop riding through my area and you could help me get a basketball goal. Now this was for the whole complex, right? It wasn't just for one kid or 2 kids or 3 kids. But there's a picture with them at the shopping cart, and I thought it was an epic picture because that right there showed just it showed the struggle, right? It showed a struggle that didn't have to be.
Right.
So now we got them a regular basketball going. They can play basketball like normal people.
Yeah.
They don't have to keep shooting balls in the hoop. That's the kind of guy I was. But look, there's hundreds and hundreds of cops out there that do this kind of stuff every day. People, y'all don't see what these cops do behind the scene. I seen a guy give a friend of his that he went to high school with. He was struggling. He was in the streets. He gave him $40. Just because he had it on him. And he knew that the guy was broke and didn't have any money. So cops, we buy meals for people. We help people. You know, there's a lot of things that we do that go unseen. One thing I did, this surprised me. One morning I was driving around on Easter many years ago, and I said, hey, man, y'all had a good time? You got an Easter basket? Everybody kept telling me no, they didn't get anything. And I was like, it's kind of maybe the first time I ever really was asking. I don't know. But I was really, and it was in the South, and I was really really upset that these kids not getting to experience Easter, right? So I went to CVS, then I went to Walmart, and I tried to buy as much Easter candy as I could. So, you know, at that point in time, it was Easter Sunday, so they only had a little bit left. So I bought as many little chocolate bunnies as I could and everything. Went and handed them out. I didn't tell anybody I did. This is the first time I told anybody, I believe. I might have told my wife at the time, but I went and bought as many as I could, and I handed them out to the kids because I thought they needed to have that experience, you know.
Yeah.
And cops do that all the time, man. I ain't trying to pat myself on the back. Like, Bruh Stupid used to tell me, is your shoulder okay? Like if I did something good, he said, hey, man, is your shoulder okay? Now, think about Bruh Stupid. He would do this anywhere. We in a command staff meeting. We're in a VCU meeting. Multiple agencies in there. I walk in, and he says, hey, I think he would just either say big head or he would just say, hey, man, is your... Well, first of all, he'd say, I heard you coming in because you got all them medals jangling from you, you know. And he's a character, man. So you got to expect him to mess with you. He ain't going to just let you have free reign into a room. So then he said, how's your shoulder doing? I'm like, what you talking about? He said, I figure you threw it out from patting yourself on the back, you know. So he was a clown like that. But cops, what we do, we don't get recognition for, right?
You only hear about the bad stuff.
You only hear about the bad stuff, but that's okay because we don't need recognition. Right. Nobody needed. I'm telling them now because it's a good story, but nobody needed to know that I handed out the bunny rabbits because you would have done the same thing if you would have known in your heart that these kids should experience it. So I'm not exclusive in that, but I told Bruh Stupid, you'll never be big head. You'll only be the guy that got to work with big head. So I got to fire back at him. You know? But he's a good dude, man. He's out there. He was out there on the streets, and I know some of the people called for him to be on here. Yeah. I don't know if he's going to be on here or not, and I would say that you'd have to call the Coast Guard, like I said earlier, and see if he's still around. But he was somebody that I paid attention to in the way he interacted with people on the streets. And this is a joke, but people that made me mad. If I was on a scene or they was acting up, I would say, y'all keep it up. I'm going to call Bruh Stupid out here. And they're like, man, don't call that dude out here. Because they know he would take action. He didn't give nobody a break. If you did something, you was going to get got. I think right toward the end of his career, he got a little bit more lenient, but not much. You know, if it was your brother or my brother, he's going to arrest him. He might help him out in court as much as he can or a little bit, but they're probably going to jail. So he wasn't a break cop. You know, you wasn't gonna get no break. If you had something on you, or if you did something, you was gonna get popped. You was gonna take that ride. Yeah,
and he was working with you in the South.
His story is very compelling, man. So we worked together on the squad for about a year. Yeah. So, but we were in the South on different squads, right? So there was that
different
level.
Cars.
Yeah, nobody ever rode together. Nobody ever rode together. We all had single cars. So if I was on the day shift, sometime he was on the evening shift. When he became a supervisor, he was on the evening shift. And he would ride around and do his own thing in the evening. But I guess the word terrorize would be the easiest way. He terrorized the neighborhood, man.
That's what everyone says.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just repeating what they're saying. But look, I've been on some of the calls he's been on, and some of the things that they say never happened. You know how myths or the myth and the legend grows with time.
Yeah.
And but he was effective, but he was not one that people cared to see.
Yeah.
They wouldn't walk by like they holler at me, "What's up, big head?"
Right.
They're not hollering, bro, stupid. They trying to duck. They trying to move. And that's just a reputation he had. But like, he was a no nonsense guy. But he was an effective cop. He made probably as many arrests as anybody in the history of BRPD, man.
Yeah.
They had him, another dude named Bulldog and Camelo that used to work in Scotlandville for many years together. They were kind of like a little crew, and they were very effective. And the thing about that is, I knew everything about the South, but if I needed to know something about what was happening in Scotlandville, I would call one of them.
Yeah.
And be able to get that information. And there's usually one or two people at every district that's really good at keeping up with who the violators or the players are.
Right.
And you can call them, and the detectives would lean on us if they needed information. As a matter of fact, I had a guy from a whole other agency text me about a week ago, and he sent me a picture, and he says, "Is anything in this picture recognizable to you? Because it's somewhere in the South." And I told him that this looked like this particular area, and I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah.
But even though I've been gone for a while, they know that I was a good source and a resource. So I gave him my answer, and like I said, he's with another agency. But people, a lot of times people, they wouldn't ask because egos get in the way and stuff like that. But to me, that's childish, man, because the objective is, as a unit, to make the city safer,
right? Not
to worry about whether I like you or not. Because even if I don't like you, and you got the information,
we can still work together.
Then I need to talk to you. I need what you got, man. Can you tell me? But some people, they petty, man, and they won't move past that, and that's a shame. Egos. I found egos with other agencies, mostly the federal government. I found that egos got in the way sometime, and we worked with the FBI for a couple of weeks, my intelligence division, and half of them we got along with, and half of them we didn't, and the ones that were more street savvy were the ones that were easier to deal with. But we helped them for about 2 weeks. We helped them solve a big case, and we were able to get their stolen MP5 back. And it's way too drawn out to talk about here, but there was some bad blood in there. And like I told the special agent in charge or whatever he was at the time, we need to kind of talk and let's figure out why y'all mad. We wasn't mad. We was happy we got the gun.
Yeah.
They might have been mad because they didn't get it. They brought all their resources in from New Orleans and everything. And they had some really good, talented people. It just so happened that we got it. But, we worked in conjunction with them. Just the day that we got it, we were independent.
Yeah.
And, feelings get hurt. But I don't have time for that childish game. I just move on, man. If you're not happy with something I did, all I can say is the results were we got an MP5 off the street that ain't killing anybody. So you could have just said thank you and went on about your way, right?
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I think it comes across in all of your stories, I guess the care for the neighborhood and to want to make a difference.
Yeah.
But not only to do that, but to do it in the right way, with respect and.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to. And me and my wife actually talked about this recently. She said the thing about me is that regardless, that she knows that I care, that I have a deep concern. I still do. I don't want them people in Baton Rouge to be suffering the way they're suffering.
Yeah.
I feel like I did as much as I could, right? And sometimes I get calls and I try to give them information to help solve crime or whatever, or just, hey, do you know this person? Yeah, I know him. But it's about a level of caring. And one guy that I worked with, he said, some people misunderstand you because I'm very outgoing. And I talk a lot of smack. If you want to play the mess with me game, I'm gonna play it back, and I'm gonna try to sting you. Bro Stupid was good at that. He's good at throwing them jabs back. But you can't mess with a cop that has a personality like me and think you ain't gonna get your feelings hurt.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna keep driving you, and if I know it bothers you, I'm gonna keep driving you.
Right.
You know, but it's not like I used to mess with the rookies, but you know the regular cops. It just depended on the moment, man. You know, I mean, but a lot of cops can't take ribbon because they like I just told you the story about Bruce Stupid and stuff he told me. I didn't have to tell you that. That don't bother me, man. That's just something funny. He did it in front of 30 people.
Yeah.
From other agencies, you know. But it's just part of the game, man. If you get a DWI and you a cop and I see you, I'm gonna be like, hey man, you know, you wanna go out for a drink tonight? You know what I mean? I'm not gonna oh, it's too soon? No, you know, cops drive each other, man. That's what we do. When we sitting at the table, we drive each other. That's why we're so good on the street. You know, and you know how it is, man. It's just some camaraderie building, man. It's one of those things where if you ain't having fun, like I said earlier, then you're going to be in a long career, bro.
Right. Got to enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah, you got to. And I thoroughly enjoyed everything that I did. I thoroughly enjoyed my career. And like I said, the only complaints I really got are from some administrators, man. But I looked at some of your comments, but when I retired, I looked at some of the comments, and one of them stuck out to me a lot. When I retired, the lady said, Big Head arrested both my kids. I think they were both shooters. Arrested both my kids, but he treated them with respect and fairly.
Yeah.
And not only that, but he told me the process and everything that was going on, because what we don't do a lot is educate the families about what's occurring. So I'm taking your kids to jail. Here's the process of what's going to happen. This is how you get in touch with them. This is how, you know, this is the process, because a lot of them don't understand the process. And she took the time to respond. It was a BRPD post. It wasn't my post. She took the time to respond and say that, and she thanked me for my service and for you know, being the way I was that day. And that's how I was all the time, because you should know about your family, right? You should know what to expect, because if I just take her kids to jail and don't tell her anything, then she don't know nothing. And that brings up the kid topic. I always tell people, and I teach with the Attorney General now, and I teach domestic violence and other things. And I want the people out here, if you're a cop and you're watching this, I want you to understand this. You've got to take care of these kids. You have got to minimize the negative exposure they have with police officers, because what happens is these kids see something. You need to take the time to explain to them, if they have another parent around, you need to take the time to explain to them why this was done. If you had to, just say you had to struggle with their dad or mom, right? You need to tell them why, because right now they're looking at you as an evil person that beat up their parents, right? Yeah. They're going to be scared of you forever. So take the time to talk to them, get on their level, stand them up on the couch. I had one kid, I stood him up, we was outside, I stood him up on the hood of the car because I wanted him more on my level. Because when you're a big guy or you know, a kid, you don't want to look down on them because it's intimidating. First of all, they seen what happened. They seen that you took their parents' freedom away. And there was one instance where I was at 2nd District. I was inside the precinct. There was a fight that was going on outside. And I walked outside, and luckily they quit fighting. But one of the girls said to me, she started to say something. Her mama asked me who I was, and she said, "That's Big Head, Mom." It was 2 families, but they quit fighting, so I didn't arrest. I didn't do anything to any of them. I told them to go on their way. But the girl, she was about 17 at the time. She said, "Big Head, I'll never forget whenever you arrested my uncle, you let me get in the back seat of the car and give him a hug." And I remember specifically who she was, and I remember that moment. And that right there told me that it made an impact on her, because I let her, he was in handcuffs. He was a big guy. He struggled a little bit. It wasn't like a major fight or anything. But I let her get in there. And when she was a little bit younger, she got in there and gave him a hug. And I said, "You okay?" to her, you know. And I said, "This is why we did this." I took the time to explain to her. And cops, I don't think cops really realize that. So I try to educate cops when I'm teaching with the Attorney General. But I also have done that throughout my career. No, we got to make sure this kid doesn't leave with just 100% negative exposure. Yeah. And also when people say, if you don't behave, I'm gonna let the cop. I might have mentioned that on the last podcast. I don't remember, but cops don't like that. We don't want to be your vessel to discipline your kid. Yeah. Discipline your own kid. Don't tell them if you bad, the cops are going to take you to jail, because now when they're in trouble, right? They're not going to want to talk to us. And I always tell the kids, we're not going to take you to jail. You need to listen to your mom and dad, but we're not taking you to jail and we're not going to whip you. We're not going to punish you.
Yeah.
And I tell parents, that's childish of you to do that. If you don't have parental skills, figure out some way to get them, but don't utilize us, because all you're doing is creating a negative experience for a kid.
Yeah. No, you good.
All right, I'm gonna take a sip of water.
Yeah, and it's that's so important too. I've had good experiences with, when I was out there doing what I was doing. I've had good experience with police, and I've had bad.
Yeah. And that's everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, every encounter is not going to be good. I'm not saying every encounter I had was good. It's one of those things where I treat people accordingly. I don't have a preconceived notion of how me and you going to interact.
Mm-hmm.
You start dictating that, and if you make me be an ass, I will be. If you want to be a wise ass and talk smack, why'd you stop me and start MFing me and all that? Then I'm gonna reach your level.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's as simple as that. I'm not gonna sit here and tolerate you doing stupid or talking stupid to me. Ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
So I tell officers. One thing I tell officers: do not bring chaos to the scene, because it'll never leave. Right?
Yeah.
If you look at some of these situations that you see on TV or historically that are negative in the capacity of a cop, if you bring chaos to the scene, it will never leave. And what I mean by that is this: you can always get angry, aggressive. You can always get whatever you want to call it. You can elevate your response, but you can never lower it back down.
Mm-hmm.
So when chaos is there, it's always there. If you was MFing them when you got there, it's an MF situation the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to calm down from that. It just ain't going to happen. So I always tell them, don't bring chaos to the scene. As a cop, you have to have a level demeanor. You have to be able to process during your encounters. You have to be able to process and think. A lot of cops, they don't understand that concept. They don't realize that you have to constantly be processing, because everything can change in a moment, right?
Yeah.
Me and you could be cool right now, and the next thing you take a poke at me. But
Right.
I was anticipating you taking a poke at me, even though you never gave me any indicators that you were. But cops have to be ready. But cops have to be able to react and respond. A lot of that comes with experience, but a lot of it comes with instinct. Some cops don't have instinct, and it ain't something you can teach.
Yeah.
Instinct in any capacity. Like being a podcaster, you have different instincts. Some are really good, some are not.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way that your body, the way you react and everything. I guess is the easiest way to say it. But I tell these cops, if you don't have instincts, then you have to do other things better.
Yeah.
You have to be more tactically aware. You have to be more aware and try to educate yourself on how to respond. You can put yourself in mock situations all the time.
Yeah.
And kind of get an idea of how to respond. So, but cops, take care of them kids, man. That's one of the top priorities in all your career, is to limit the negative exposure for them kids.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's only going to help you down the line.
That's right. Because now you have an ally, or you have somebody that's receptive to you, as opposed to having somebody who hates you. Yeah,
because I think the goal should always be to help these kids and really anybody not to end up in jail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that starts young.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, that's why as a cop, if you're able to mentor people, then, it works. It works out for everybody's benefit. Because if you have a community that is not experiencing a high volume of crime, and you don't have people growing up wanting to be drug dealers, wanting to be gangbangers, wanting to be violent, then it makes it a lot easier. So if you can get to the youth and show them, here's where we get into a problem with the youth. They see that violence is respected sometimes, right? That's their mindset. We need to teach them that violence isn't the answer. Being educated is the answer. Yeah. Doing other things that make you productive in society, because we need to tell you that violence is respected. And hip-hop, gangster rap and all that, in my opinion, is a driver of this mantra, this mindset. They make this glamorous. They get these, I call them these little boy beefs is what I call them. Mm-hmm. You got 12, 14, 15-year-old people shooting each other behind social media posts. Back in our day, we would have met on the school ground and fought. And then been over with, probably become friends. But now they want to kill each other. Then they want to go to they want to go and cry because they're getting locked up for life, right? But all you had to do was understand that it never had to reach that level to begin with. So we got to do the best we can to change their mindset. They have to change their mindset also, but it goes back to parenting. And I know it's a whole different topic, but the nuclear family, the father, the mother, the kids in the house, I saw the problem occurring probably in the 90s and well on to the rest of my career, that without an established family, everybody came up with this baby daddy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's guys out here, they got 7 or 8 baby mamas, man. And, I mean, come on, bro. You can't be a good father in that environment, and you ain't got money to begin with, so quit doing that, So we need to get back to a little more family structure, because too many young boys were being raised by their mother or their grandmother. And nothing against the mothers and grandmothers, because they do the best they can.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a male dominant figure in a household, they're
going to find one.
Yeah, they're going to find one. And who better than the knucklehead on the street that's got a little bit of money, got a little prestige and power, right? So now they following Ray Ray on the block instead of going to school. They following him thinking, okay, I'm 14, I got a pistol now, I'm a big guy on the block. And then they become part of the system or the cycle. Yeah. And it's hard to get them out. So, that's one thing, so yeah, you're right. We gotta do good when they're young to make them productive members of society when they get older. Yeah.
And I guess the last thing I wanted to talk about was the video you sent us of Boosie talking about you.
Oh, yeah, for Vlad.
With his son.
Yeah, Vlad TV. Yeah, so the video, I tried to post it on my YouTube account, but Vlad blocked it. Yeah. And it said copyright. So I reached out to them. I emailed them, and I told them who I was and that I was part of this conversation. And they tried to shake me down for some money. And I told them that my podcast don't make any money, so they wouldn't give me copyright. They wouldn't give me the ability to post it. I'm not paying no money for that. So I didn't, but YouTube blocks it. But the video, so I'm going to tell you about the video, but let me tell you about the situation before. Yeah. So we're in a command staff meeting with BRPD. Boosie and his people were going to rent the park, or they needed a permit to be at the park on Roosevelt Street, 1200 block of Roosevelt, and they were going to do Boosie Bash or whatever it was called at this particular time. It was probably 2017 or 2018, and
it might have been the first one that they did then, huh?
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure, but they were going to do it there. So I'm in a command staff meeting, and I don't like to talk about administrators and everything, but I think this is a good point. I always stood up for what I thought was right, regardless of the consequences, and I defended a lot of these people from a street level that other cops or other administrators didn't understand. So they're making an argument that they're going to shut that down because he didn't have the permitting properly, right? Yeah. So my argument in front of all of them, because I understand these streets, this is, even though I don't live there, this is where I'm from, right? This is what I understand the dynamics of how things work. So I said to the chief and everybody under him that was in there, and they were very opposed to what I had to say. I said, first of all, y'all do know he lives 2 streets over. He don't live there right now, but his uncle was staying there at the time, and that's his family house. And I said, so if you don't let him go to this park, the next thing they're going to do is go over here to the house, and how are you going to stop that? Well, we'll shut him down. And I'm like, how you going to shut him down? People are going to free flow over there. He has the right to be in his yard to do what he wants. Yeah. So I argued with him. And, if anybody tells you different, they lying. I argued with him in this command staff meeting, and I said, y'all need to allow him to either be at the park or he's going to do it at his house. Now, I didn't keep up with everything that occurred up until the point that it was fixing to happen. He had it at his house, but here's the kicker. They put street crimes out there, and they were containing the perimeter, not the interior. But they were going to shut this down if the street got blocked. Now, where he was at, it's a maybe 1 block street, and there's just one or two ways in, 1 or 2 ways out. But to get into the area, we can control all the entry points and exit points because there weren't that many. Maybe 4 total.
Yeah.
And the street crimes, they probably had 12 or 15 people on the team at the time. So anyway, I went to the street crimes leader, a friend of mine, Troy Lawrence, and I said, hey, man, I need you to do me a favor, bro. I'm in intelligence at the time. I'm in a F-150. I said, I need you to do me a favor. Let me handle the interior of this. Let me handle the street dynamics. I'll keep that street free flowing. Let them do what they're going to do, right? Mm-hmm. And even though the administration didn't want it to happen, I convinced him. He didn't really like the fact that I was going to do it because he was worried about my safety, right? Yeah. And I said, man, I'm among my people, man. I'm comfortable. Yeah. This is my element. I'm here every day. Like I said, if they want to give me, they can give me today, tomorrow, the next day. Yeah. So what I did, they probably had 500 to 700 people out on the street by now. And Boosie, I think he was in the house. I don't think he was on stage yet. But I went to his manager and I went to some other people and I said, here's the deal. I'm going to be monitoring this street. If you see me drive up and down the street, you need to make sure that they clear a path. Because if not, they're going to shut the whole thing down. So that was I had to tell them that because they would have shut it down. I wouldn't have had no more leverage. I stuck my neck out as much as I could. So throughout the concert, I would drive up and down the street. I'd have my windows down, and it was just me. And I could hear them, y'all, big heads coming, y'all move, clear the street. So I would make the street. They did everything they were supposed to. They let me go, right? They let me go through, and not one problem we had. Thousands of people, not necessarily at one time, but thousands of people flowed into the area, heard his concert. And I don't even know that he knows that you know, he might see this. I don't know if he will or not, but I don't even know that he knows that I went through that big process just to make sure that they had it because it wasn't. I didn't think it was right to shut it down, and you know, that's just me, man. I'm a street guy, so street crimes, they did their thing. They didn't have any problems. But the part with Boosie, when he talks to Vlad TV, Vlad, I think, asked him, I'm paraphrasing, he said, what would you do if your son wanted to be a cop? Yeah. And I think he said, you must be smoking some weed. Go sit your
tell him to go lay down.
Yeah, something like that. And then while I was out there before the concert started, a little dude rides by on a bike. And I was like, man, he looked like Boosie, man. And I had never seen this kid. So, and I said, hey, man, you Boosie's kid or something like that? And he didn't say nothing. And I'm like, hey, bro, you hear me talking to you, bro? And he just looked at me. And he said, my dad said don't talk to the police. And I said, well, your dad told you right, bro. I'm cool with that. Yeah. And I said, tell him Big Head said, hey, when you see him, bro. And I figured it was his kid because it looked just like him. And it was a very mild interaction. But he did tell his dad. And then if you remember at the end of the conversation, Boosie said, oh, that's just Big Head, bro. He kind of chuckled about it because, you know, he knew that I didn't mean no harm. Yeah. And I just wanted to know if it was his kid for real because I'd never seen him before. But the situation is he told his kids, and if you watch the whole video past that, he told his kids that the police, he mentioned something about giving them a lollipop, you know, just kind of being silly. And they mentioned something about the Memphis 4, about some cops getting some kids to confess to stuff. And that's why he taught his kids that he's been in the system and been harassed and tormented, and whether or not it was justified or not, that's not for me to decide. He was never convicted of anything. So he has a certain expectation about interacting with police through his personal experience. I'm not going to tell the man how to raise his kid. Right. I told him, your dad told you right. I wouldn't want my kids to talk to the police if you know, I mean, really, man, if you think about it, the right to remain silent, nobody uses that right, but think how many people talk to themselves in a conviction just at the scene. So, and I know cops ain't going to like when I say that, but, you know,
that's the truth.
My people know this. No matter whether you're a suspect or not, get an attorney.
Get a lawyer.
Yeah, get a lawyer,
Don't ever talk to him.
Yeah, but I needed people to talk to me to make cases. So I'm looking at it from both ends of the perspective. But I'm going to tell them, I'm going to protect my people and tell them. And that's what Boosie was doing at the time. So, yeah, it was comical, but I still can't believe Vlad wanted to charge me to use that little clip. And this, you know, it's less than 2 minutes, man. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not paying for that. So, if Boosie's out there listening, or anybody that knows him, he told his kid right. I got no problem. But at the end, he did say that's just big head, man. So he understood the dynamics of what happened. But the show went on. But I'll tell you this is funny. Nobody knows this. Maybe one or two people I told friends. But halfway through driving down the street one time, I stopped and rolled down my passenger window, and I did like that to him, and he saw me on the truck, and he stopped his concert and he flashed the forwards back at me. Now cops get mad at me because they think, are you sucking up the boots or whatever? No, that's just me being who I am, man.
Yeah.
I would never go through a whole concert without at least flashing the forwards once.
Yeah.
And like I said, he never got convicted of anything. So some people are mad about that, but it is what it is. The justice system is set up to either convict you or to find you innocent, right?
Yeah.
And people attribute a lot of things to Marlo Mike and all that. Well, guess what? Boosie didn't get convicted of any of that, and Marlo Mike's in jail. Marlo Mike, that was a youngster, man.
He was young when he got arrested.
Yeah, he came in like a fiend, man. Nobody knew who this guy was, and somebody told me the nickname Marlo Mike, and I kept thinking they said they were saying what I didn't know is they had a show called The Wire.
Yeah,
because I didn't watch The Wire till I retired, and
Good
they
show.
had a guy named Marlo Mike. So I think that's where they named him after. Yeah, it was one of the best cop shows I'd ever seen, man.
Really good.
And the guy over there, I think his name was McNulty, the main guy.
Yeah.
I told my wife, man, when I see this and see how they effed with him and see the things he did, I felt an instant bond with this guy. I'm like, some of the things that he's experienced.
The way he carried himself, too.
Yeah, the way he carried himself, the experiences he had with people not understanding his mindset, his philosophies.
Yeah.
It was the closest thing to reality as I ever saw. I was like, man, now the only thing I wouldn't have done, I wouldn't have set up a drug dealing area. I wouldn't have done that.
Right.
Obviously, that was for entertainment, but that's not something you do. You don't have a place for them to go, But sometimes you just got to understand the dynamics when you disrupt power. And if you have stuff going on, and there's drug dealing always going to go on, but we had narcotics to do the long term stuff. So I didn't necessarily look to hit the big drug dealers. I'll let them handle that because that's their job. That's what they do. I handle things from a street level, and the more information I could get from no matter who it was helped me and helped the department. I solved a lot of crime, man. Getting information on vehicle break-ins, on shootings, on burglaries of businesses. We had one business. We had a couple of guys that was breaking in a lot of businesses, stealing stuff, and I knew one of them was cut up pretty bad because he left his DNA. The glass cut him pretty bad, so I knew he wasn't going. His arm was going to be cut up, and I got information, and I told you police it ain't convenient in the last podcast. I was on my way to Tennessee. And I got a call. Hey man, I got you guys over here, and they trying to sell some of the stolen stuff.
Yeah.
So I called a couple of street guys because the detectives wasn't out at this time. But I didn't have to do that. I could have just said, okay, thanks, and went on my way. But I'm driving to Tennessee with the family, called and gave them all the information. They were able to make the stop, and they solved a whole lot of cases and got a lot of stolen stuff back. So policing ain't convenient. So if you want to be a good cop, if you want to be somebody that's capable, you have to police whenever it's around, when it's happening.
Yeah.
Nothing's convenient, man. Nothing's convenient in the police world. If you set up a drug buy at 4:00 in the afternoon, you might as well count on it's probably going to be 8:00. I didn't do that often, but I did do it sometime when I was in intelligence, and nothing ever goes as scheduled, man.
Oh yeah.
Drug dealers, they move how they want to move. And they smart too, man. They looking at seeing if they got tails and stuff. That's why it's hard. If you ain't got 10 or 12 cars, it's hard to follow somebody in the city without them, because them guys pay attention, man.
Yeah,
they pay attention. That's how they survive. So for every one time we get them, they probably did it 2,000 times. You know what I mean, or more. Some of them you never catch.
Right.
That's a big thing. But to the young guys out there on the street, y'all have got to develop a different mindset and quit shooting each other, because getting locked up for the rest of your life, although it seems cool when you're out here slinging that iron on the street, it ain't cool, man. And you making victims out of everybody, because you kill a kid their mom, their dad, their brother, then you got to worry about retaliation because certain areas are going to retaliate. You know, maybe me and you won't because we understand consequences, we understand the law might, but maybe we do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if somebody messes with your kid and kills them, you don't know what you're going to do till that happens, man. That's why you hope it never happens.
Right.
And some of these people that are put in these situations, it's how they grew up. Oh, you put your hand on my kid, you know, I'm gonna kill you, and or you kill my brother, I'm gonna kill you. You know, I always understood.
It's almost expected.
That's right. It is expected. It's expected, and if you don't do it, then you may be looked at as maybe you ain't a real gangster like you said you were. You know, but they got to stop all this killing, man. And you know, these school shootings, these random shootings at the mall, these random shootings at churches. I'm not talking about the mass shootings. I'm just talking about random encounters, you know. Quit putting, like I said, on social media where you're going. And just quit shooting each other. Because that's coward stuff, man. For you to just shoot somebody, I mean, even the mafia back in the day, they did do some coward stuff, but most of the time they had a reason to do it, right? They didn't just do it because they wanted to. And if they did do it, they had to pay the price. So if you working under John Gotti and you do something you ain't supposed to and you kill somebody from another, they're going to go to John Gotti and say, hey, your guy killed my made man, and God is going to give him an okay to kill you, right? Everybody knew the consequences. So if you stepped out on the ledge, then you might get dealt with by your own people. But I don't know if there's an answer, man, right now, because I think these people, the young black males, are so infatuated with this gangster rap and hearing the lyrics about killing people and stuff. I think that they just think that that's what the culture is and that's what they need to be.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we change it, honestly, man. Because one person at a time just don't work.
Right. Now with Marlo Mike, when so he just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I never heard of him until the guy told me. You know, I'm talking to the guy on the phone, and he's like, basically that he had already started killing people, but I had never heard of him. And for me not to hear of him was really odd. I still don't know much about him,
right?
Honestly, because he was so young. I don't think he was on anybody's radar.
No, I don't think so.
And I told a couple of people on homicide, you know, the information that I got, and they hadn't heard of him. So when they said Marlo, the only thing I kept thinking was the Marlboro Man, you know, because I mean we old, and I'm like, he kept saying it was something like Marlo, you know. I talked to several different people about it, but nobody could say Marlo Mike because they didn't really know. And I was like, it don't really make sense that you would call this guy Marlboro, you know, after the Marlboro Man. So eventually I found out that it was Marlo Mike, but you know, he was. I don't know enough about him to comment on him, but obviously he was about that life because, you know, the thing about people, the thing people don't realize is some of these young guys, they just want to be attached to somebody, right?
Yeah.
So Marlo Mike, I don't know what his childhood was like. I don't know anything about him other than a few things I've seen on YouTube maybe, but he latches on to people for whatever reason, whether it be Boosie or somebody else, right? And people like that are in that environment that just want to belong somewhere, you ain't even got to pay him probably to kill somebody. You know, if you want them killed, they'll probably do it for free just to be a hang around. Yeah. You know, and unfortunately, he confessed or was convicted, whatever it was. I think he's doing life, but I don't keep up with it. I never kept up with cases, man. None of that really intrigues me. They get what they get. If I arrest them, I don't sit here and follow the cases because it don't mean that much to me. You know, unless you did something to me or one of our cops, then I definitely want you to rot in jail. Yeah. You know, this guy that killed our motor cop Caleb Osworth, you know, they playing all kind of games in the court system now, but no cop wants this guy to be free. We want him to get the death sentence. I mean, as simple as that. Right. You kill a cop, and we want you dead too. That's just as simple as that. We want you to go through the process and get the death penalty and be executed. Simple as that, because we got to protect ourselves. We got to protect our brand, and if we don't, you know, just like when they killed Glenn Hutto, one of our sergeant. Well, he wasn't a sergeant at the time. I don't remember what his rank was, but they killed him on the scene, and we had a new chief, or I don't know how new he was, but inner city cops are different, right? We think different. Like if you kill one of us, we don't want you to live.
Right.
You know, we okay if the snipers take you out. If you decide you want to fight, now we're not gonna murder you. So don't get me wrong, but we don't care. We don't care if you live because you killed our people. So if they catch you and put you in court, we want them to get you. We want them to execute you. But you know how it is. Just like if it was me and you, and it was one of our friends or relatives, there's going to be some talk and some chatter. And I told our chief, I said, "You probably going to hear some things you ain't used to," because he was a state trooper. This particular chief, he was a state trooper, and we got different mindset in the city, you know. And he's like, "What you mean?" And I said, "I'm just saying, don't sit here if you hear cops, if you happen to walk up and you hear a conversation, you know, about anything. I don't want to be too graphic on here because people are going to misunderstand. But if you hear something that may not be in line with your thoughts, then understand that it's because we're mad. Yeah. And when you're mad, you're gonna chip your teeth a little, you know. Right. And he never said nothing more about it, but you know, it's one of them situations where I just worried that there were so many cops out there that he was going to overhear something and get mad about it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if he's ever been in that situation or not before. You know, and the mayor came out there and, you know, all those politics, we don't need the politicians out there. We didn't need a chief out there. We just needed to get this guy either in custody, or if he wanted to shoot it out, we would have shot it out with him. And then eventually, if he didn't and we took him into custody, we wanted him to go to the electric chair or however they execute him now. We just didn't want him to be around. Yeah. Because if you kill a cop, we got nothing for you, man. Because if you're willing to kill a cop, then what are you willing to do to anybody else? Because they walked up on Hutto, and from what I remember, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they walked up and hit him execution style right at the end when he was down. And that's a coward, man. It was a coward to shoot him at first, but then to walk up and execute him, you don't need to be on this earth, man. Yeah. If you're willing to do that to a human being, that's a police officer in uniform, then you would do it to anybody else, right? Yeah. And wouldn't think twice about it. So, yeah, it's one of those things. But, you know, your podcast is good, and they had a lot of comments. They had a lot of comments that were generated, and I appreciated some of the candor back and forth. Some of it was comical. But it looks like you got a pretty good following, man, and I'm glad to be here for a second time as a follow-up. And
you're our first second-time guest.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Well, hey, bro, I'm proud of that. Yeah. You know, and it's a situation where I looked at a lot of the responses y'all got from the reels and stuff, man, and I couldn't believe the sheer number of people that were looking at it, man. At one point in time, it looked like they had about 700,000 or 800,000 on one particular reel, and I was like, man, that's a lot of people looking. So, you know, you got good content. People gonna come. You know, as far as, you know, me sharing my stuff, you know, I have my own podcast, but I preferred to share it in this venue because my podcast is a little bit different. I gear it more toward interviewing police and kind of putting out different messages. But this is more real and more raw than I like to get on my podcast because I'm trying to keep mine, you know, and I don't talk about the administration. I try not to talk negative because I really don't want to. I think police business should be police business. And even though I told you about the Boosie thing, you know, that wasn't really about the administration and, you know, their goals or their lack of understanding of, you know, because I took a lot of ribbon from that in that command staff meeting. I mean, it wasn't
fun.
It wasn't fun, but I stood my ground. I always tell them I put both my feet on the ground, and I'm gonna be big head. I don't care if you like it or not. You know, when Murphy Paul and I ever talked, he was the last chief I had, Murphy Paul. He called me big head too, you know. But you know, so getting back to the chief, we had to take a little break. But getting back to the chief understood that I was going to give him my opinion, and I think he valued my opinion to the point where I'm not saying he ever listened to me, but at least he heard what I had to say, and if it fit what he had going on, you know, then he would use it. You know, I don't want to overstate my importance to him and to the role, but he knew I was a crime fighter. And one time he and I were at odds at each other, and I'll say this in a tactful way. Murphy Paul was our chief, and he had his idea on how to fight crime. It wasn't for me to agree or disagree with it because I had many chiefs before him, right? It was me trying to put out a product and to let him know what I thought was best, because I consider myself an expert in certain areas that he wasn't. But all the chiefs, as I told you earlier, never really had a street guy, a crime fighter. Very capable chiefs. You know, my first chief was Greg Ferris, and he was a great chief. I don't have anything bad to say about him. He ran a great department. But in the situation with Murphy Paul, I was advancing my career. I had shown the ability to influence crime, and he even one time he said, my intelligence division has experience in interrupting violence, and that's what our job was, to interrupt violence. And so I'm going to tell you this story, but I'm going to leave out the names of the two factions because I don't want to reignite any kind of bad blood. But I think it was 2017, 2018, somewhere in that era, they were having a big gang turf war, and it was not really about, it wasn't really about control of the streets. It was about control of other things, you know, as far as, like there was no turf war. Like, you can't come on my street, I can't come on yours. It was much bigger than that. It was, you know, two big gangs, two big influential people. And I was able to reach a level where I was able to get both of the people that were the lead people in each organization, if you will, to agree to a truce. So it took me a while to get the first one. Then I approached the second one, who was the other leader, and he said, yeah, I'm good with that, because it's really about making money in some of these situations. And some of the people that are in control don't necessarily control the street level stuff that occurs, right? You can't have people that are under you under control all the time.
Right.
Even in the mafia, people are going to do things that they want to do. So I got both of these groups both of these leaders to say, hey, we're willing to sit together and establish a truce, because up to that point we had at least 26 shootings attributed to this conflict, right? Yeah. And I worked in intelligence, but also worked in the crime strategies unit with a group of people that we had an analyst, Sonia Armstrong. She's a military analyst. We had Jeff Malone, who was a DA investigator, Jim Steele, that was a DA investigator. We had Kiva Sims, who was a DA investigator. And we had a prosecutor in our office. Will Morris was there, and then Steve Danielson came after. So we had a good core of people that actually helped us, and they helped with the intelligence division. So we were able to pinpoint everything and say with 100% certainty that there was at least 26 shootings, including some homicides that was attributed to it. So this was epic, in my opinion. I told my I told the commander of the intelligence division what I had going on. He said, when you get a date, let me know, and I'll let the chief know. Now, he and I were at odds about that, because I thought we should have let him know right away. Yeah. But he made the call, and I never said anything more about it. You know, I was comfortable with his assessment. So once we got it lined up, the chief was told. For some reason, they got mad. I got called in. I actually got transferred to another division pretty quick, and they put me in the Crime Gun Intelligence Center, I think it was called, CGIC, where we followed up on non-fatal shootings. But I stayed in the same office and had the same role established with Intelligence Division, although my assignment was different. Yeah. He called me into his office one day, random meeting. I'm working for this other guy for one day. He's my lieutenant. He comes and says, hey, the chief wants a meeting with you. And I'm like, okay. You know why? He's like, no clue. You know, so this is my first day working under this guy. He might have been a captain at the time. So we go into the meeting. There's the chief. There's the deputy chief. This pissed me off because he had his attorney in there, and then they had somebody else. I don't want to mention his name either. But we're talking, and they're asking me about the situation. And it's almost like they implying that I did something wrong, right? And we didn't know anything about it. And I'm like, well, you know, all I can tell you is this. This has been established. Some people got mad that when I was in court one day, the judge called me up, and the judge asked me if this was something that BRPD wanted to happen, because we had to get permission from the judge, because one of the persons was, you know, involved in a case, and something that was ongoing and occurring. So we got permission from the judge. So everything was intact, but the chief, he was pretty I'm not going to say he was mad at me, but I don't think he understood the dynamics of what we were doing. And about a minute or two into the conversation, I realized it was kind of an attack on me and my motives. And I was like, yeah, I'm not letting it happen. So once again, both feet on the ground. I'm the only one that's an ally for myself in here.
Yeah.
My new commander has no idea what's going on. All these other people obviously are in here for different reasons. And I said to them, we have an opportunity right now that we've never had. This is equivalent of taking, as you said in the earlier podcast, the Crips and Bloods. This is the equivalent of getting a truce with these. We've got 26 known cases that they have attacked each other. That's what we know of. We don't know everything. That's just what we know of. With definite we know. And I said, y'all don't want to do this, and I don't understand why. They give me some reasons, and I'm not going to get into all the details, but I was getting pretty pissed. And I even questioned them. I'm like, why would you have an attorney in here, right? So then they started asking me, I think they were worried about my motive. I think they thought I was doing something I wasn't supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And I said, listen, we have an opportunity to stop these killings, these shootings. And not to mention, a lot of these shootings was happening in broad daylight. One of them happened, I believe, on Kentucky Street right there in the South. There were 100 rounds or something fired in one area in the middle of the day, man. You know, cops were out there, kids were out there, everybody was out there. So they're telling me, I can't remember the exact conversation, but they're not on my side. They're asking me questions to insinuate that maybe I was doing something wrong. And I said, y'all don't want to stay in the streets. I do. None of y'all want to understand what I'm telling you. And I told one of the deputy chiefs, you should know because you used to be in the 700 Club and you know the streets and you know the dynamics, but maybe he just wanted to side with the chief. Yeah. Well, they said in the end, it was about an hour and a half long, right? Because I laid it down on line for them. I wasn't gonna relent because I know these people that are getting killed, and I told them, y'all don't want to stay in this. I see these people growing up. These people that are getting killed are people that I know, and we have the ability to stop it. And I know I'm getting a little passionate, but I was really pissed off at them. I said, if we don't stop it, then I feel like we bear some of the burden of anybody else that gets killed. And they said, well, what if it don't work? And I said, that's the question you come up with? What if it don't work? If it don't work, then they're going to keep killing people or shooting people like they've been doing. But at least we have the opportunity to stop it now. That's what we have. We have both leaders in town that are willing to stop this. Yeah. And y'all are telling me no because of what? I can't figure it out. I can't figure out why. And they back and forth with me for a while, and they said, well, we're going to talk about it. I said, what do you need to talk about? Well, you can make a decision right now, because if you make the wrong decision, then I want to be able to sit here and tell you that you're making the wrong decision face to face, as opposed to you calling me on the phone and telling me. Yeah. And I was direct, but not rude. I didn't curse them. I didn't, do anything that I really wanted to do. Yeah. But I told them, I don't understand the dynamics of what's going on, man. How epic this is, and they eventually said, we're going to make a determination and we'll get with you tomorrow. And I said, somebody might die tonight, right? Mm-hmm. They didn't care. They had their own agenda, their own mindset. And I think the only thing I could think is they was butthurt because they didn't know, and maybe it caught them off guard, and maybe they thought they should know. But, it wasn't my job to inform them. It was my job to set it up. Right. And I did everything that I thought was right. And I had the support of my intelligence division, my other two sergeants. And I told them, on the strength of my name, I got these people together, man. Mm-hmm. And this ain't easy. This is not easy, because these people hate each other, right? You know the Crips and the Blood story. I mean, the dynamics of them. They called a truce at one point in time, but it was that level of hate. These people, if they caught you moving, they was going to drop you. Mm-hmm. Simple as that. It was circumstances. If circumstances put you in my line of fire, you was going to get got. That's how they were. That's how they were at that time. Yeah. But they made a decision not to. They called me the next day on the phone, and the deputy chief called me, and he said, hey, man, we decided not to go ahead with the truce. And I said, you're making a bad decision. And they said, well, it's the decision we made. And I said, well, I think that you should get me back in a forum where I can talk to you about it, bring in the rest of my team and everybody, including the Crime Strategies Unit team that supported us. Let us all come in here and talk to you and tell you why you're not making the right decision. Mm-hmm. well, what if they continue to do it? I'm like, how's that going to make us look bad, right? Can you think of a reason? If we trying to stop people from killing each other, and we get them to stop for a day, or we don't never get them to stop, why would we look bad if they continue to do it, right?
Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It still don't make sense. To this day, it doesn't make sense. One of the people involved in this, he talked about it. There was a guy that interviewed him, and I don't know who the guy was. He was kind of funny. He said, he didn't say politics. He said politricks. So I laugh at it the way he said it. He said, they said the white cops in Baton Rouge don't want to see, the blacks prosper, whatever like that. It was some kind of, the video's out there. I just can't remember exactly what his words are because I hadn't seen it in a while. But this guy said, I'm going to tell you something I've never talked about before. He didn't mention my name and he didn't mention anybody's name. He said a government figure came to us, which was me, and tried to set up a meeting with me and another guy, right?
Yeah.
And he said he didn't mention his name either. He didn't mention anybody's name. He said, but somebody told him from his department that he was overstepping his boundaries, and they shut it down, right? So when my friend saw that, I didn't see it, but he sent me the clip, and I went and showed it to my wife, and I said, look at that, because she knew this story, because my wife and I, we talk about stuff. I'm not one of these cops that shield my family, and she knew how pissed off I was about it, and she's like, man, that just kind of reaffirms everything that you try to do. I'm like, exactly. So, being the guy I am, I took the moment to text my chief and the deputy chief and let them see exactly what this guy had to say. And then this was months later. It was like 7 or 8 months later. It just randomly popped up on my friend's screen. So I sent it to him and I said, I told you it was a mistake then, and it's still a mistake now, because I'm gonna be respectful to you, but I'm still gonna press.
Yeah.
I'm gonna press, because if I think I'm right, there's no reason for me to relent to you, because you making bad decisions, right? And they made a bad decision. They will never admit it, but they know they did. They shouldn't have done it. But what really pissed me off is that they had their attorney in there. To why would they have their attorney in there to listen to police stuff? Right. Unless you're trying to get me in trouble. Come on, man. What would I have done wrong? I went through their attorneys. I went through them individually. I went through the court system. So anyway, I never had to be vindicated because I did, but I did get transferred. So obviously, I did get transferred before that meeting. So obviously, I hurt somebody's feelings. But I don't really care, man. I took my lick. I did my thing, and I still think I'm right. I still think they're wrong. Luckily, these two groups aren't at each other, and I don't want to reignite it. That's why I'm not mentioning their names. But I think it's a good, compelling story. And I look at the camera to tell you, chiefs of police, sheriffs, if you're not listening to the people that are out there on the front line, then you're making a mistake. If you're not utilizing them as a resource and using their experience, especially somebody that's proven that they have talent and that they can make a difference, if you're not listening to them, then you're not going to be as effective as a leader as you should be. And that's something that I think is really important for them to hear, because too many times they let that position validate their decisions, right? And sometimes they have other things to think about, but there's nothing else to think about in this situation. Even if we told the news what we did and it didn't work out and 10 people got killed the next day, we tried. Yeah. We did our very best to stop this from happening, as opposed to we did nothing when we could. And that's what we did. We did nothing. And unfortunately, the beef kept, on for a while. And, I've been retired 5 years, so I did make sure that it wasn't still ongoing, but I didn't want to mention names today for that reason. As you can understand, I mean, you know much about life as me, man. Yeah. Our stories are different, but we both lived. We both lived, this long in our life, so we've experienced a lot. But the situation with these departments now, I want to give a shout out to the cops that are still out there putting it out. Putting your life on the line every day. It's harder for y'all to be cops, but y'all have to stay dedicated and motivated, and y'all have to do what you can to make sure that these people are being represented, because their quality of life depends on your energy and your effort, your expertise, and it's important that we have cops that are still willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of street cops anymore. So a lot of them are doing things for social media, content and everything, as opposed to really, like me, I really cared. And there's a lot of cops that really care.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to see people fail. We want to see them succeed, not as criminals, but in life.
Yeah.
And we talked about that on the previous podcast when I saw somebody that I had arrested before. It's easy to be a knucklehead on the street. I tell them, you know, the working man, that's the tough guy. You go to work every day. You got to get up. You got to, you work and you do a podcast, man. You know, so you doing at least two things that I know of, and that's just what I know. So we need to get them in that same mindset, and let's get back to having a world where we can, you know, free flow from place to place and not have to worry about this violence, man. And people need to respect each other, but they need to respect themselves. And that's a big thing, because a lot of people, they just do stupid stuff. You know, we got everything going on, road rage. You know, it's a violent world, man. That's why I carry my gun. I told you last time, I carry my gun everywhere I go. You can't be caught slipping without your gun, because I may have to defend you, or if I don't have my gun, you may have to defend me. But somebody needs to be armed in these areas, because you've seen they had a guy the other day in another state. He engaged somebody. Looked like he had a suppressor on his gun.
The guy that was at the In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, that's just a random...
Probably, it saved a couple people's lives.
Because this guy was intent on killing. But if we have the armed citizens, and cops don't really like these guys to be armed, but I'm like, I'd rather them be armed.
Yeah.
Because I would rather somebody like you have a gun and be able to help out. Even if I'm in a position where, as a cop, even though I'm not in a cop anymore, but if I'm in a negative situation and you're the only person that can help me, and you have a gun, then come help me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I appreciate being on your podcast.
No, man, we appreciate you. This has been really good.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it worked out to where we got to get you put both episodes out back to back.
Yeah. So hopefully y'all get some good feedback from it. I like to read some of the comments. So all y'all, I done told you I wasn't in narcotics. I told you everything at the beginning. So when y'all put that charge on me, understand y'all putting the charge on the wrong guy.
Yeah.
You know. So give me whatever you got to give me, but don't give me all the other foolishness.
Well, like I said though in the beginning, you got some people that's coming to defend you in the comments too.
Yeah. They got some people riding for me because they know who I am, and they know how I am. And I looked at a couple of them. Them's picture, and I clearly recognize them. You know, the real OGs and the real people. They had a guy, we intercepted a phone call just to show you how I am. I don't know if I said it on the last one or not. When I say intercepted, we were just monitoring the phone call, and one guy said something negative about me, but the other guy's like, you just got to understand Big Head and how to work with him, you know, because I can be an ass if I need to be.
Right.
It's not what I need to be, but if you make me that way, then I will be. So he was trying to hip this guy to the encounter. This is how you're supposed to interact with him if you want him to treat you this way.
Yeah.
And, the older people used to tell the younger people that, and that helped out. And whenever we're in a situation where people know me, then it helps out, because I had one guy, he was from North Baton Rouge. I didn't know it at the time. I never seen him before I stopped him. Right in the middle of Thomas Delpit Terrace, where UPT was hanging out at the time. And he was running his mouth. I looked at him, and I said, hey, man, one of y'all might want to tell this dude something. And they said, man, that's Big Head, bro. Don't trip, bro, because you're going to wind up getting yourself in trouble, you know?
Yeah.
And he calmed down. But I used them because I knew it was going bad. Yeah. And he was going to get more than he wanted. And I wasn't there to do have no. Yeah, I was there just on a traffic stop, but I'm not going to tolerate you running your mouth in any circumstance. It ain't going to happen. Yeah. I still don't tolerate it now. If you run your mouth at me in the business, I'm gonna run my mouth back. I mean, it's just as simple as that. I'm just not that kind of guy. I ain't looking for trouble, but sometimes it finds me. Right. And you just have to act accordingly. But luckily, I got a good mind. I'm able to process. I'm able to keep things as even keeled. And like a guy told me, he listened to the podcast, and I talked to him and his wife the other day. He said, "Thing about you is this: you're very calm, and these people that try you, they might not understand. Sometimes it spooks them whenever you feel." Because I told one guy, if you want to fight, if you want to fight, I got nothing better to do, man. Yeah. But I don't get riled up about it. Right. I'm gonna get riled up if once it begins. But at the beginning phases of it, I'm gonna be cool, calm, and collected because I don't scare. I'm not, even if I'm scared that you twice as big as me. Like if I was fighting The Rock or something, I'm sitting here analyzing my mind. All right, he's a lot stronger than me, so what am I gonna do? I'm gonna jab him. You know, I'm gonna try to stay away from him because if I can't let him get me, right? So my mind's always thinking of how to win this encounter because there's a lot of big dudes on the street and there's a lot of bad dudes on the street. Even in the prison where you worked in, you know, there's dudes that you would rather not fight, but sometimes you might have to. So you got to be able to pick them apart. Yeah. I can't pick The Rock up and slam him to the ground because I ain't strong enough. He can slam me to the ground, so I can't let him get me, right? Yeah. So, you know, it's all about being trained. And I want to say this when I talk about that. A lot of times cops put off doing things that they wanted to do. And when I was in my mid-30s, I realized that I was reaching a point physically. I bench pressed 400 for the first time when I was 39. So around that time, I began boxing, and I trained at Tony Gyro used to have a place called Gladiator Gym on Florida. But then I started training with the UFC, a guy named Darius. And he's still out there training, but I also took Krav Maga, which is an Israeli form of martial arts. And I wanted to do this because it was something I always wanted to do, and I never did. Time just kept getting away. But I knew at some point in time that I was getting to the age where if I didn't do it physically, I might not be able to do it. So I was lifting weights, I was boxing, and I was taking Krav Maga all at once. And I got to do all those things. So I tell cops, don't get so consumed with work that you don't do some things that you wanted to do in your life before you get too old. Because, you know, once you're old like me, I'm 57 now. Once you get this old, you're old line. You're still out there on the prowl, bro, but, you know, you ain't, they got a lot of young lines out there they built to take over at some point in time. And, you know, with age, man, you're just going to deteriorate. You don't have the strength. You don't have the endurance, you know, you just kind of lose it naturally. It just is what it is, man. It's just part of life. But go out there and do things you wanted to do. Travel, whether you're a cop or just a regular guy on the street, do things and experience them before you get too old, because a lot of us work to the end of our career and we try to travel and everything, and then you old and decrepit and you can't move as good, you can't go as quick, you know. So do all those things while you out there working, you know, even in your age, and you and your brother, you know, whatever y'all got going on. Do things that are fun, man, so you can make memories so you don't have to regret it. I did that when my youngest boy, when Tim Jr. was 14, I went to day shift. I didn't want to go to day shift because the activity on the evening shift was what I wanted. Yeah. But I didn't want to be a douchebag dad either, right? So I went to day shift, best move I ever made. I was able to be a father that was home in the evenings. I coached his baseball team, one of the best experiences of my life. So if you inundated with this police world and hooked on it, you got to kind of distance yourself from it from time to time and live your life. Because honestly, the day you leave, they replace you with a rookie. And you really insignificant anymore, and that's the shame of it. You know, you just, it's not that they replace your experience; they just replace you. Yeah. You know, and it's just the natural cycle. So whenever you leave your job, somebody else will come in and work, and they may talk about you, and you know, hey man, he was a good guy, blah blah blah. But in the end, you're still gone, and somebody else is there. So that's what you mean to the institution. Right. Zero in the long term. Yeah, because anything you achieved earlier has already been achieved, right? So you're no longer an asset. So you really mean zero to them. And it kind of messes with you when you think about it, because you think that you are capable and all, and then all of a sudden you're not there anymore, and you realize that really you don't mean nothing to this organization. You know, and that's why as retirees, sometimes we like to eat together and hang out and stuff, man. But you know, don't let the job define you, because in the end, the job don't care about you. Right. They only care about you when you can help them. Right. And, you know, that's not being mean. That's just part of life, man. Yeah, it's true. No matter where you go, you got to be replaced, man. So shout out to all those guys fixing to retire. Shout out to the families of all the cops killed in the line of duty. They put their life on the line for us, and unfortunately, they didn't make it home that night. And I hope that y'all have peace in your life and understand that they died doing something they wanted to do. I always told my wife, if I got killed in the line of duty, you know, I just hope that I had a bunch of shell cases around me where I fired back. You know, nobody wants to go down any other way than in a glamorous way. But really, death is death, right?
Yeah.
But cops that die doing what they like to do, or doing what they want to do, you know, it's acceptable to me. So, and I don't know about any other profession, but in law enforcement, they were doing what they wanted to do. They chose to wear the badge and the gun, and they knew the risk and circumstances, and they died during the course of their duty. So, you know, we'll portray them as heroes that they are, the heroes that they are, because they didn't have to get up and do that. They could have been a welder or a pipe fitter or something else, but they chose to put themselves in a violent world, and they knew it. And sometimes we don't come out on the good end of it. So kudos to all those families out there that allowed their loved ones to, you know, to be in this situation, to put themselves out and be exposed to that kind of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, man. I've enjoyed this.
Yeah,
both interviews.
Yeah, I enjoyed coming, man. And like I said, I wish you well on your podcast, man. And anything I can do for you in the future. And, you know, maybe one day I'll get you on my podcast and we'll talk about some stuff. I know you had some situations in your life that you had to overcome. And it would be something that my podcast could probably use. But
anytime.
Good deal, man. I appreciate it.